Hello, it's Lainy here from Achievement for All, and I'm joined by John Drew. John and I were having a conversation on a previous video for leaders and managers about that possibility of your staff coming back to work, and they have been through some experiences, possibly some trauma. But this particular video is for those staff. So it's for teachers, support staff, and you're going to be on the coal front, really, on the coal face, with the young people. And it doesn't actually matter what age they are. They can be really little ones, all the way through primary, all the way through secondary, and actually even in post-16. Their emotions will be, similar in terms of they might have experienced trauma, and it could be trauma from many different areas as well, which I'll let John go into. So John, do you want to give us a kind of basic overview of what we're talking about when we say trauma? What does that even mean?
Well, trauma impacts the body in lots of different ways. We all react to trauma in different ways. Children and young people who are less able to regulate their emotional responses, their reactions over time can be deleterious, if you like. Certainly when the body experiences stress, stress hormones are released, and that has profound neurobiological and psychological effects, and can manifest in lots of different ways. And I think what's absolutely key to understanding that when we're working with children and adolescents who perhaps experience trauma over time, particularly thinking about the current circumstance now, where there is the possibility that some of them may have lost a relative. They may have become aware that a teacher is no longer going to be at their school when they go back.
Yeah.
And thinking about how that impacts on the wider community. And I think what's important is that we have to come to an understanding that those kinds of circumstances can't be changed.
No.
And we have to focus on what we can alter, what we can have a positive impact on. So for example, think about how you can modify your own personal definition of a good day to meet the current reality of the situation. And then work together, problem solve, and set achievable goals with these new circumstances. Evaluate the absolute risk of contracting the virus and recognize the benefits, perhaps, of accepting that a certain level of risk is going to be there. And then how do we maintain as much of our normal routines as possible within that, so that we can manage the levels of stress that we experience. It's very easy, because the brain is a social brain. We need other brains to interact with, and we do that through a process called neuroception. We pick up lots of subtle cues from other people. And we know that because there's a specialist collection of neurons in the brain called mirror neurons, which is where our empathy comes from, our ability to empathize with other people. Everyone has them. Everyone is capable of empathy. Some people are naturally more empathic than others, perhaps, but we can learn to be empathic. For people that say, "Well, I don't how to understand that. I don't know what mirror neurons are." When they eventually open, hopefully at some point in the future, you'll sit in the pub on a Saturday afternoon watching a football match, and there's a corner coming in and the ball's kicked across. Watch how many people in the pub jump up and head that ball into the net with the football.
Yes.
That's our mirror neurons in action. It's where we're able to anticipate what someone else's reaction might be. And I think for teachers and support staff who are working with students who've experienced trauma, it's the importance of picking up those subtle cues about how people might be feeling. And for people who've been faced with life-threatening situations, there are lots of really useful strategies. And the first would be to quickly recognize and acknowledge and accept the reality of the situation, and then make a plan for dealing with the feelings of being overwhelmed or distressed. And preparation can make you feel more in control if those feelings arise, and help you move through them more quickly. And part of that is accepting that all emotional reactions are normal.
I think one thing as well, John, that strikes me and has happened to me when I was teaching is a story a young person tells you can trigger something in you.
Yes.
And actually you can have an emotional response to something that somebody is telling you or talking about, and being able to regulate that in yourself in that moment, because you're with a child or a young person.
And when we talk about emotion coaching, when we talk about self-regulation, that gives us as practitioners, as teachers, as support staff, the opportunity to explore our own emotional world as we encourage the development of resilience in others as well.
Yeah.
And that kind of approach works best when we come at it demonstrating a calm tone, a well-regulated manner. Words and body language is really important when we're modelling the kind of behaviours that we want to see. And of course, that's obviously easier said than done, especially when you're coping with behaviours that are anxiety-inducing and at the time. But the impact, I think, of personal regulation and effective empathy are manifold. I mean, often personal reflections and changes in the way in which behaviours are addressed occur through, over a period of time, through several weeks, months. We won't get it right every single time. And as practitioners, I think we have to be prepared for the unexpected.
Yes.
Hopefully it's an enlightening journey about our own emotions and about our own responses to people as well. It's about identifying your own feelings, break down your own emotions so that you can separate the underlying emotion from how it's making you feel.
Yeah.
So we talked about this previously, that your meta emotion might be camouflaging your true emotions or even protecting you from experiencing them.
Yeah.
So, next time you find yourself in that situation where something triggers you, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling it? How do I wish I felt or expect the best version of me to feel in that kind of situation? And once you understand how you're really feeling, you'll have a clear idea of how to act.
Yeah. And they say a lot, don't they, that awareness is the first step. The more aware you are of your feelings and why you're feeling it is the actual first step into being able to regulate it in the future. And what I would say to anybody is, I've done a lot of work on this ever since I was in my early 20s, and it takes constant practice. It isn't something you learn to do and then you're like, oh, that's it, I've got it now, I can do it. It doesn't work like that, does it, John? It's something you're continuously developing and continuously having to put in place every day, really.
Yes, we're practitioners. We're not necessarily experts. This is something we're practicing every day. When a few of us who are AFA coaches were trained by Dr. Janet Rose from Bath University in emotion coaching. One of the things that really struck me and is so true, she said, when you begin to practice emotion coaching, I think a lot of people fear that it's going to make them very controlling in their reactions and responses to other people, but actually the reverse is true.
Yeah.
You feel less controlling, but more in control.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
So that increased connectivity, will have a significant impact on the mental well-being of colleagues and of students. And it's also, I think, crucial for schools to recognise the value of certainly will be crucial to recognise the value of promoting an emotionally intelligent workplace.
Yes.
And schools that incorporate things like quiet areas, social spaces that are appropriately distanced, that will become standard as we look at really simple steps that we can take in schools to look after the mental well-being of everyone who's a member of that community.
And so if teachers are struggling and support staff struggling, where can they go for help? What can happen for them that can help them and support them?
Well, the great thing that school leaders do and have always done is they provide signposting. I've been looking at lots of schools' websites over the last few weeks, looking at the kind of information they're putting out, and it's so heartening, I think, to see that so many are signposting organisations that promote mental health, well-being. Because again, it's something I spoke about in one of our last conversations, is about putting your oxygen mask on first to make sure that we're okay, that we can increase positive coping behaviours that have worked in the past.
Yeah. I love that analogy. I've said that to you before, haven't I, when you said that, when the first time you ever said that to me, and I was like, oh, I just really love that analogy, because you really do need to put your oxygen mask on first before you help others. You do need to look after yourself before you can look after other people. I think that's a brilliant analogy to take away.
And then think about how you can shift negative self-statements into statements that let you function with less distress. So rather than saying, this is a terrible time, think about, well, this is a terrible time, but I can get through this.
Yeah.
And so rather than getting discouraged, focus on what you can accomplish, what you can control. And lots of organisations, lots of schools are providing mentoring or information that will help us all to improve our ability to make decisions and take actions.
And sometimes this is a good time for coaching and mentoring. I know in a previous video with somebody else, I was talking about, you know, you can coach people like this remotely. You can coach people over the phone. So there's always coaching available for people if they need it. Or even peers, like get together with a peer who can talk through with you. Because sometimes it's just that talking to somebody else, isn't it, that helps you through.
It's about making that connection. Either Dan Siegel or John Gottman talk about connect before you redirect. You have to make that connection with people, and we do that through our empathic responses. And I think, you know, we're going to see a phased return. We're going to see a blended kind of learning going forward. I think one of the biggest challenges for staff and support staff are going to be how do we do that? How do we, you know, it's because, you know, some people will be working from home. Not all teachers will be able to return straight away. Not all students will be able to return straight away. And a lot of staff in schools aren't necessarily, well, a lot of teachers are subject matter experts, but they aren't experts in training online. No. And you can't just transfer that inline learning experience to an online platform.
No. So we've got the whole thing around well-being, we've got the whole thing around trauma, we've got the whole thing about looking after yourself, and then we're going to layer on top, we might be changing the way that we teach.
Absolutely.
And I know we're going to do a video about a little sort of helpful tips on blended learning and how we might be taking things forward. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that, John will have some great top tips for us on that as well. So I suppose our top tips from this video then, John, really is that kind of looking at yourself, self-regulating. What else would you say is our top tips from this today?
Understand that we're going to be confronted with a world of anxiety when we return to our workplace, and that's okay. In many ways, that will be the new norm, and we need to say that's okay. You know, it's okay that they feel like that, and it's okay that I feel like that, but we are going to get through this. And
we're supporting one another. And I'm just going to end on your lovely analogy. It's oxygen mask on for yourself first, isn't it? Absolutely, every time. Brilliant. Thank you for joining me. If you've liked what we've been talking about and you've had value from this session today, then click on the link that's about to come up, pop £1 in the pot towards the charity to keep us going to help and support vulnerable young people. Thank you. Thanks, John. Take care. See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.